Before I start, I'd like to explain something. If you've listened to my videos previously, you may have noticed that sometimes my speech slurs, or I get stuck on something like I can't get the words out, and reading out loud is a bit disjointed. Well, there is a reason for that. I'm not drunk, but I do have a progressive degenerative brain disease which has affected me in as much my speech slurs, I can't think of a word, things like that, which is noticeable in these videos. Doesn't have any difference when I read to myself, and I can still process information normally. It's just in speech that I have problems. So I just wanted to explain why sometimes my speech isn't quite right. Now I'm going to play the video and I hope you can understand me. I expect, like me, you're absolutely sick to the back teeth of hearing about social distancing, face masks. I know I've had enough. So I thought I'd show you what it's like around the town where I live. The main town is called Bromley and I live in Shortlands. So I'm going to show you how it is around this area. So that I could comment accurately on my findings, I went to the government website to see what the recommended distance of separation is. I found the visiting public places section and read the whole article. Nowhere does it say a distance. But I did have more luck on the BBC website. This is from yesterday, 7th of September, and save me reading out the article, it's got a handy table. I'll just do the social distancing bit. In England, it's 1 metre plus. Ambiguous. Scotland, 2 metres, but less in some premises. Wales, 2 metres, but only if you're 11 or over, and less in some premises. In Ireland, 2 metres apart, obviously regardless of age and premises. Now, how confusing is that? So let's see what it's like in Bromley and the surrounding areas. This is the post office. The card reader you can see on the right hand side is where I was standing, and the cashier was about 4 inches to the right of that behind a screen. The next door scale section, as you can see, was just to the left, and the distance between the two counters, I'd say, was definitely less than a metre. This is our local shopping centre, the Glades, and this is the most annoying thing in Bromley. They have a one-way system. So this side you can walk, with the blue circle, you can walk towards us, and the other side is away from where we are. Now, some of the shops have, some of the division has these black barriers that you can just see at the back. The other day I was walking this way on the side of the blue circle and I wanted to go in a shop the other side, so I dared to cross the line, and a guard appeared and said, no, you have to walk all the way to the end and around and come back the other way. Now it's probably about I don't know, about a 2-minute walk just to go in the shop opposite. So I thought, stuff that, I'm not going in there now. But that is the most ridiculous and irritating thing that I've ever come across during this COVID-19 rubbish. Shortlands station. It's quite small, but it does get busy at times in rush hour. This is one of the entrances and exits, and as you can see, it's quite narrow. The arrows are where you have to walk, obviously, and you can see that is not 3 foot wide, 3 foot 3 wide and a metre. So it's farcical to put the division down. Doesn't make sense to me. On Saturday afternoon, we took a day trip to Hastings. Now Hastings is on the south coast. It's about 50 miles from here. And we were expecting the same kind of ridiculousness as we've got up here, but we were both pleasantly surprised. Just look at the difference. We were able to sit outside the pub on the street without any ridiculous signs, no blue dots on the floor. People were just generally enjoying themselves. And the next picture is the crazy golf. As you can see, people were just playing it normally, queuing up, no lines on the floor to tell you where to stand. It was such a nice change to Bromley. This information is from East Sussex County Council. It says Hastings Borough. Throughout the pandemic, Hastings has experienced the fewest cases in East Sussex, with one of the lowest rates of total confirmed cases in the country. Throughout June and July, there were only sporadic cases, meaning a weekly rate much lower than the England average. However, there have been an increase in cases in the last 2 weeks, and so the weekly rate in Hastings is at a similar level to the England average for the first time, although there have not been more than 4 cases in a single day. Figures that I found for Bromley. New cases per day. From the 5th of August to the 6th of September, it was 8.88. Because Bromley is about 3 times the size of Hastings, I've divided the 8.88 by 3. I've rounded it up to 9, so that comes to about 3 cases. If you remember, Hastings had no more than 4 per day. It makes the observer information correct. It's about the same as the national average in Hastings. So, I mean, mine was just a noddy experiment taken over about 8 hours one Saturday in September. But from what I saw in Hastings, it was so free, there was hardly any evidence of COVID-19 there. Whereas up here, we've got all these restrictions and the figures come out the same. There have been a couple of genuine social distancing experiments, and the one I have here is from 2008, and it's called Exploration of the Effectiveness of Social Distancing on Respiratory Pathogen Transmission Implicates Environmental Contributions. This experiment took place in military barracks. The test subjects were divided into units between 50 and 90. Some were put in open units and some were put in closed. The open units, the individuals could come and go as they please, and obviously the closed ones couldn't. They had to stay closed. The result was there was not enough notable difference in disease transmission between those who went out and those who didn't. But they did notice that transmission could have been from surfaces, so the source probably wasn't human to human, it was environmental. So last night, on it was early hours of this morning, 9th of September, Boris Johnson has tightened restrictions again, and of course they don't make any sense whatsoever. This is from the Telegraph. Boris Johnson has tightened restrictions following a surge of infection. The most recent update from the government has said that people can no longer socialise in groups of more than 6. The latest announcement could scupper the previous hope that the rules on social distancing could be lifted by the end of the year. The Prime Minister has said that he hopes we will be able to review the outstanding restrictions from November at the earliest, possibly in time for Christmas. I don't think it will be in time for Christmas. I think he's just ruined everybody's Christmas and possibly New Year as well. But the groups of more than 6 doesn't make any sense. If you're in a bubble, that's fine, but you can't go to the pub with your friends if there's 7 of you. You'd have to go in a 4 and in a 3 and stand just 3 feet apart, whatever it is, 6 feet apart. It doesn't make sense. It's inconsistent throughout the country. That's what makes me think that it's some kind of test to see how far our governments can push us. When are we going to turn around and say enough's enough, we're not doing this rubbish anymore? I could understand social distancing working if everybody was doing the same thing all the time, but they're not. You can't go in groups of more than 6, but kids can still go to school. You can still go to weddings and funerals where there are more than 6 people. It is absolutely stupid. I'd previously heard of social distancing was with regards to conditioning. In fact, it was negative reinforcement, but I'd never heard of it in regards to politics. So I thought I'd search and see if I could find out when the term was first coined. And I discovered there was nothing prior to 2005. So what happened in 2005 for things to change, for terminology with regards to viruses and diseases change? And I discovered that it was because in 2005 the WHO implemented a document called the International Health Regulations. This is a set of rules with 196 member states, and they're quite strict rules, what to do with regards to travel in outbreak of viruses and diseases. I have to say though, it is mainly in conjunction with yellow fever. 2 years later, the IHR was revised, and this is a short paragraph to explain what it was all about, what the revision was. When the world is collectively at risk, defence becomes a shared responsibility of all nations. The framework of the newly revised IHR is a key driver in the effort to strengthen global public health security. Unanimously agreed upon by the WHO on the 23rd of May 2005, the regulations are the result of experience gained and lessons learned during the past 30 years. This global legal framework includes a commitment from the WHO and from each WHO member state to improve capacity for disease prevention, detection and response. It provides standards for addressing national public health threats that have the potential to become global emergencies. Its success will rely on the capacity and performance of national public health systems, anchored by strong national public health institutes. The new International Association of National Public Health Institutes aims to strengthen and invigorate existing MPHs, to create new MPHs where none exist, and to provide funded grants to support NPHI development priorities. I discovered that over the next 10 years, social distancing appeared more and more frequently in articles related to outbreak of novel viruses and diseases. In 2014, the CDC, along with the United States, set up an organisation called the Global Health Security Agenda, which was funded by the Gates Foundation. This agenda is, in short, a document about preparedness for outbreaks of viruses and diseases, and in particular, it's pushing a vaccination program. Well, I think that's about it on social distancing. The examples that I found proved that it didn't work. I do think it can work in certain situations, but it has to be implemented properly. Having said that, today, on the 10th of September, I awoke to discover that Boris Johnson had imposed even stricter regulations. By this I mean he has given the police the power to arrest people who do not comply with this. And I mean, what a waste of police time. Absolutely ridiculous. And money if it goes to court. But he's also employing marshals to enforce this. I feel quite stupid because at the beginning of this outbreak, I believed every word. I was worried. My daughter was studying in Strasbourg and I urged her to come home because it looked like the disease was spreading quite quickly. But I feel so stupid. I did believe it. I didn't believe everything, but I did believe the overall premise that there was a dangerous virus on the loose. But now, having looked at lots of documents, I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm going to do a video about the effectiveness of masks and quarantine. But there has to be another agenda from what I've seen. There definitely is something going on. And as yet, I haven't quite pinpointed it, but when I have, I will post my conclusion. If you've made it to the end, well done, and thank you so much for watching.